I never thought I'd be sitting in a luxury Miami Beach resort feeling this miserable. As an investment advisor who spent the last decade building a successful career, I'm used to staying at high-end establishments. But this time, what should have been a memorable family vacation has turned into a nightmare thanks to my sister-in-law, Emma. I'm here with my wife, Sarah, a dedicated pediatrician I've been married to for 10 wonderful years. We're accompanied by her elderly parents, Robert, a retired military officer now battling health issues at 76, and Martha, his devoted 70-year-old wife. And then there's Emma, Sarah's 35-year-old sister, whose presence has cast a shadow over what should have been a perfect family getaway. 2 days into this trip, and I'm already at my wits' end with Emma's behavior. Sarah and I have built a comfortable life together. My work as an investment advisor has been rewarding, both professionally and financially, while Sarah's career as a pediatrician has flourished. Our lifestyle reflects our success. We typically take 3 major vacations annually, plus several weekend getaways to break up our demanding schedules. We chose not to have children, which gives us the freedom to travel extensively. For the past couple of years, we've made it a priority to include Sarah's parents in one of our annual trips. Robert's health has been declining rapidly, and Martha struggles to manage traveling alone with him. This summer's trip held special significance. Robert had expressed a wish to visit Miami, the city where he and Martha had spent their honeymoon nearly 5 decades ago. There was something in his voice when he mentioned it, a hint of urgency that suggested he feared this might be his last chance to revisit those cherished memories. When Robert offered to contribute to the expenses, knowing how costly a week in Miami would be, I immediately declined. These people have treated me like their own son for the past decade, and I wanted to do this for them. As a successful investment advisor, my financial situation allows me to comfortably cover such expenses. Seeing the joy in Robert's eyes at the prospect of returning to Miami was worth every penny. Our perfectly planned trip took an unexpected turn when Emma asked to join us. Unlike Sarah and me, Emma's financial situation has always been tight. Working part-time as an administrative assistant with 3 school-age kids and a husband whose income barely covers their basic needs, she's struggled to maintain a middle-class lifestyle. Every time we'd share photos from our travels on social media, she'd leave comments about how she hasn't been able to afford a proper vacation since her honeymoon. This year, she directly approached us about joining the Miami trip, despite knowing I'd have to cover all her expenses. I agreed. After all, family should help family, right? First day at resort. From the moment we landed in Miami, something felt off about Emma's behavior. The first red flag appeared just hours after checking into our beach resort. Emma had been documenting every moment on her Instagram stories, from the luxury airport transfer to our oceanfront suite check-in. As we gathered on the resort's pristine beachfront terrace, she suggested taking a family photo against the stunning ocean backdrop. I reached for my phone, ready to set the timer so everyone could be in the picture. That's when Emma stopped me, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Oh, James, would you mind taking the picture for us? We want just the 4 of us. Mom, Dad, Sarah, and me. You know, the original family." Her words hit me like a physical blow, but I maintained my composure, thinking perhaps they wanted one photo of their original family unit. I'm not unfamiliar with family dynamics. As an investment advisor, I've helped countless clients navigate complex family financial situations. But this felt different, more personal. But this wasn't a one-time occurrence. Emma transformed it into the theme of our entire vacation, broadcasting every family-only moment on her social media feed. At every tourist spot, every restaurant, every memorable moment, she'd find a way to exclude me. "Oh, just the 4 of us," or "this one's just for family," became her constant refrain. I became the designated photographer, forever behind the camera, instead of making memories with my wife and in-laws. What made it worse was watching Emma meticulously curating her Instagram feed, creating a narrative where I didn't exist in this family vacation. Each post was carefully crafted to showcase their perfect family reunion, while I stood in the background, reduced to the role of an invisible benefactor. Sarah would occasionally step in, insisting I was family too, and Robert and Martha would invite me to join the photos. But Emma always managed to manipulate the situation until I was back behind the camera. As I stood there, holding the phone for what felt like the 100th time, I couldn't help but feel like I was nothing more than a walking ATM and personal photographer for their perfect family reunion. The irony wasn't lost on me. As someone who manages millions in client assets daily, I was being treated as if I were merely the help at my own family vacation. At the resort pool, after a long day of walking and sightseeing in Miami's heat, I was looking forward to relaxing in the resort's pristine infinity pool. The ocean view was breathtaking, the kind of luxury setting I'd specifically chosen to give Robert and Martha a memorable experience. Just as I was about to step into the pool, loosening my shoulders after hours of carrying everyone's shopping bags, Emma struck again. "James, could you stay out for a bit?" Her voice carried across the pool deck. "We want a girl's photo, just Sarah, Mom, and me. The lighting is perfect right now." What started as one innocent-sounding request turned into an hour-long photo shoot by the pool. I stood there, still in my swim shorts, watching as Emma orchestrated endless combinations of family photos for her Instagram feed. First, it was the women, then a sibling's photo, then another original family shot. Each time I tried to join them, thinking surely they'd finished, she'd conjure up another combination that conveniently excluded me. The sun was blazing overhead as I watched Sarah and Emma pose for their sister shot, their arms wrapped around each other while Martha took photos with my phone. I couldn't help but notice how Emma immediately checked each photo, making sure to crop out any trace of my belongings from the edge of the frame. The infinity pool that I'd been so excited about became just another backdrop for Emma's carefully curated social media narrative. I found myself wondering why she'd even bothered coming on this trip if my presence was such an inconvenience. As an investment advisor, I'm used to dealing with complex family dynamics around money, but this felt different. I wasn't just managing someone else's assets. I was living through the uncomfortable reality of how wealth can strain family relationships. Boat tour incident. The boat ride incident the next day was even more blatant. We arrived at a scenic spot along Miami's coastline where they offered luxury sightseeing tours on elegant white boats. Each vessel was designed with 2 rows of plush leather seats, perfect for families of 4. But we were 5. Before anyone could suggest a fair rotation system, Emma jumped into action with her usual manipulative efficiency. Her eyes lit up as she spotted the perfect photo opportunity, and she quickly arranged for Robert and Martha to sit together in one row, while she claimed the spot next to Sarah in the second row. "This setup will be perfect for family photos," she exclaimed, already pulling out her phone. "James, you don't mind taking the next boat, right? This way we can get some really nice family shots." I ended up alone in the following boat, wedged between 2 vacationing couples who were clearly uncomfortable with my obvious displacement from my own family group. From my position, I could see Emma enthusiastically directing a photo shoot on the boat ahead, making sure to capture every perfect family moment for her social media feed. The tour guide's commentary about Miami's celebrity homes and historic landmarks barely registered as I watched Emma positioning my in-laws and Sarah for various photo combinations. She made sure to purchase the official souvenir photo package, a series of professionally shot images of their boat ride that would soon appear on her Instagram, accompanied by hashtags about family time and precious moments. As I sat there, surrounded by strangers instead of my family, the reality of my situation hit hard. The souvenir photo became a perfect symbol of my entire vacation experience. Me, physically separated from my wife and her family, while they created picture-perfect memories without me. I couldn't help but notice that in every situation where someone had to be excluded, that someone was always me. Emma never once offered to switch places or take a turn being the odd one out, despite the fact that this entire luxury vacation was happening on my dime. Upscale restaurant scene. The dinner at the upscale seafood restaurant was the culmination of weeks of careful planning. As an investment advisor who regularly dines with high net worth clients, I knew the value of the right ambience. I'd spent considerable time securing a reservation at one of Miami's most exclusive waterfront establishments, specifically requesting a prime round table with an unobstructed view of the sunset. I had visions of sharing this romantic moment with Sarah, while giving Robert and Martha a dining experience they'd remember forever. When we arrived, the hostess led us to a perfectly positioned round table for six, ideally situated to catch the golden hour light across the ocean. The table setting was immaculate, fine bone china gleaming under crystal chandeliers, with the orange-pink Miami sunset creating a perfect backdrop. I had envisioned Sarah and me seated together, enjoying the view while her parents sat across from us. Emma, being the last-minute addition to our trip, could have easily taken one of the side seats. Instead, before anyone could even pull out a chair, Emma swiftly maneuvered herself next to Sarah, while Robert and Martha naturally took the prime viewing spots. I found myself relegated to the worst possible position, wedged between the busy server station and my in-laws, my back to the sunset I'd specifically planned this dinner around. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd paid a premium for the sunset view I couldn't even see. When Sarah tried to stand up for me, suggesting we rearrange the seating, Emma's facade cracked slightly. "Oh, Sarah, stop being so clingy," she snapped, her voice carrying across the elegant dining room. "This is a family vacation, remember? Just relax and enjoy time with your actual family." The dinner only deteriorated from there. Every time I attempted to join the conversation, sharing insights about Miami's financial district or discussing investment trends with Robert, Emma would deliberately interrupt with childhood memories, high school adventures, and family inside jokes, topics that obviously excluded me. Even when Sarah and her parents tried to include me by explaining the context or connecting stories to current events, Emma would immediately redirect the conversation, creating an impenetrable wall of shared history that left me feeling like an outsider at my own dinner table. By the time our waiter presented the dessert menu, I had given up trying to participate. I sat there, mechanically sampling the $200 wine I'd ordered, watching Emma dominate the conversation with stories about their family vacations from 20 years ago. The sunset I'd planned, everything around, had faded to darkness, much like my hopes for a meaningful family dinner. Spa day incident. The final straw came during our planned spa day. As someone used to arranging high-end client experiences, I had meticulously booked private suites at the resort's luxury spa. One for Sarah and me, another for Robert and Martha, and a solo treatment room for Emma. When Robert wasn't feeling well and decided to stay back at the beach, I thought the four of us could still enjoy the spa treatments together. But Emma saw another opportunity to exclude me. With a practiced smile, she turned to me in the spa's elegant reception area. "James, why don't you keep Dad company instead? We could really use a girls' day at the spa." Her manipulation was obvious. She was once again pushing me out of an activity I had planned and paid for, using Robert's condition as leverage to make me look selfish if I protested. The day turned out differently than expected, though not in a bad way. Sitting with Robert on the beach, watching the waves roll in under the shade of a luxury cabana, we had one of our most genuine conversations ever. He shared stories about his military service, his early days with Martha, and the challenges of raising two very different daughters. His quiet dignity and warmth reminded me why I had wanted to arrange this trip in the first place. I wanted to tell him about how Emma was treating me, to release all the frustration that had been building up throughout our stay. But watching him enjoy the ocean breeze, sharing his memories with such contentment, I couldn't bring myself to burden him with family drama. His health was already fragile, and this trip was supposed to be about revisiting happy memories, not creating new tensions. Later that night, I tried discussing the situation with Sarah in our ocean view suite. While she acknowledged my hurt feelings, her response left me more confused than ever. Emma had a really tough time when Dad was deployed, she explained, her doctor's instinct to diagnose and heal evident in her voice. We rarely had proper family vacations together, and now with Dad's health declining, I think she's desperately trying to recreate those missing family moments. Sarah's explanation made me question myself. As an investment advisor, I'm trained to look at situations objectively, to analyze patterns, and make rational decisions. But this was different. Was I being overly sensitive? Was it wrong of me to expect inclusion just because I was funding the trip? The fact that I was even questioning my right to feel hurt made me realize how deeply Emma's behavior had affected my confidence. Breaking point. After sharing my struggle on a financial advisors forum, the flood of supportive responses helped validate what I had been feeling all along. My colleagues pointed out how Emma's pattern of exclusion was too consistent to be accidental, how her actions showed clear intent rather than innocent oversight. Their perspectives helped me see that this wasn't about being entitled to inclusion because I paid. It was about basic respect and recognition as a family member. By the final days of our Miami trip, the constant exclusion and disrespect had reached a boiling point. The morning before our departure, I finally reached my limit. I found a moment alone with Sarah in our suite and confronted her about her passive stance throughout the trip. But her response was still focused on maintaining peace. I know Emma's been difficult, she admitted, her voice tired. But confronting her would only create drama that could spoil what might be one of Dad's last family trips. Her words made logical sense, but they felt like another betrayal. Once again, my feelings were being sacrificed for the sake of family harmony. In that moment, something shifted inside me. While I nodded along with Sarah's plea to let things go, my mind was already formulating a plan. Emma had spent the entire vacation treating me like an unwanted outsider while happily enjoying the luxury accommodations and amenities I was providing. She seemed to have forgotten that this entire trip, every meal, every activity, every spa treatment she had indulged in, was happening because of me. If she wanted to pretend I wasn't part of the family, then perhaps it was time to show her exactly what that meant. On our final morning in Miami, I set my plan in motion. I suggested to Sarah that she take her parents to the airport ahead of us, claiming Emma and I would follow later. Sarah saw right through my intentions. "I know what you're trying to do," she said quietly. "Sure you do," I replied, maintaining my professional composure. "And now you can remain neutral, as you've been for the whole trip." Her slight nod was all the acknowledgement I needed. Hotel checkout. Once they left, I approached the front desk with my carefully considered strategy. As an investment advisor, I understood the intricacies of billing systems all too well. While the room rates had been prepaid, all additional charges accumulated during the stay. Every room service order, every spa treatment, every poolside cocktail that Emma had freely enjoyed were settled at checkout. "I need to separate the bills by suite," I explained to the manager, maintaining my professional demeanor. "It's for tax purposes." The manager processed my request efficiently. It was a standard procedure in luxury hotels. As I stood there watching him separate the charges, I thought about how Emma had never once considered the cost of her actions, either emotional or financial. After settling the bills for my own room and my in-laws' suite, I waited for the moment of truth. Sarah and her parents were already on their way to the airport. They needed extra time due to Robert's mobility issues and wheelchair arrangements. That left just Emma and me in the hotel lobby. When the manager called her to settle her account, I watched the color drain from Emma's face as she stared at the itemized bill. The total was staggering, equivalent to several months of her part-time administrative assistant salary. Her eyes darted between the bill and my face, confusion turning to panic as reality set in. "You're not covering mine?" she stammered, her Instagram perfect composure cracking. "I've already paid for my family," I replied calmly, channeling the same professional tone I use with difficult clients. "You can cover your own expenses." Emma's hands trembled as she pulled out her credit card. The declined transaction message was exactly what I'd anticipated. Her credit limit wasn't even close to covering half of what she owed. All those girls-only spa days and exclusive dinners had finally caught up with her. And this time, her designated ATM wasn't coming to the rescue. Hotel lobby drama. The next 30 minutes in that luxury hotel lobby were like watching a carefully orchestrated financial plan unravel in real time. Emma paced back and forth on the marble floors, her designer sandals clicking frantically as she tried to figure out how to handle this unexpected crisis. Every few minutes, she'd throw desperate glances my way, clearly hoping I'd step in and offer to pay. But I maintained my position on the lobby's plush sofa, outwardly calm, while inwardly savoring every second of her predicament. As an investment advisor, I've seen many people face financial reality checks, but this was different. I could have ended her ordeal with a simple swipe of my card, and I would have if she'd simply acknowledged her behavior during the trip. But Emma's pride wouldn't let her take that step. Instead, she wanted me to volunteer to help, as if she was entitled to my money, even after a week of treating me like an unwanted intruder. Finally, she made the call she'd been avoiding. Even from where I sat, I could hear her husband's voice rising through the phone as she explained the situation. The bill she'd racked up amounted to nearly his entire monthly income as a middle school teacher. "How could you spend so much without asking?" he demanded, his voice sharp with disbelief. "What were you thinking, Emma?" After what seemed like an eternity of awkward negotiations, and probably some desperate promises on her part, the money was finally wired to cover the bill. The entire time, Emma never once acknowledged her role in creating this situation. Her perfect social media facade had finally cracked, revealing the entitled reality beneath. During the cab ride to the airport, Emma sat in silence, probably still processing how her husband would react when she got home. What she didn't know was that her troubles were far from over. As we arrived at the airport, already cutting it close to departure time, she discovered I hadn't completed her flight check-in. While I breezed through priority check-in, she was left standing in the regular line, juggling her designer luggage, and growing increasingly agitated as she watched the minutes tick by. Airport scene. The final blow came at the gate when she realized I had quietly arranged business class upgrades for myself, Sarah, and her parents. A nice surprise to end their trip comfortably. Emma, however, remained in her original economy seat. The look on her face as she trudged past our spacious business class seats told the whole story. She didn't say a word, but her clenched jaw and rigid posture spoke volumes. For the entire flight, she sat stewing in economy while we enjoyed premium service up front. As an investment advisor, I'm used to flying business class for work, but this time the upgrade felt particularly satisfying. I could almost feel Emma's frustration radiating from the economy cabin behind us. The moment we landed, Emma's composure finally shattered. She practically ran to her parents at baggage claim, tears streaming down her face as she launched into her version of events. According to her dramatic retelling, I had cruelly abandoned her at the hotel, subjected her to public humiliation, and deliberately excluded her from the flight upgrades. She conveniently left out the part about her week-long campaign to exclude me from every family moment. Her father, already tired from the journey, became visibly distressed as she continued her performance. Even in this moment, she showed no concern for his health, too focused on painting herself as the victim of my supposed cruelty. I maintained my professional demeanor through Emma's display, waiting for the right moment to present my side. When I finally spoke, I explained how she had systematically excluded me from every family moment during a vacation I had funded. Each family-only photo, every manipulated seating arrangement, all the deliberately exclusive conversations. I laid them out one by one. The simple logic was clear. If she didn't consider me family enough to include in the memories, why should she expect me to cover her expenses as family? Family confrontation. Emma's performance came to an abrupt halt when Martha intervened. After a week of watching her younger daughter's behavior, she had reached her limit. "Emma, enough," she said firmly, her voice carrying the authority of a mother who had seen through her child's manipulation. "We won't get involved. We all noticed how you cornered James the whole time. We tried to include him, but you had your own agenda to push him aside. Now deal with the consequences." But instead of accepting responsibility, Emma lashed out more viciously. Her carefully maintained facade crumbled completely as she accused me of using my financial position to control the family. Then she turned on Sarah. "You sided with your husband to humiliate your own sister, your own blood." She spat. "Just wait and see what this man does to you. He'll probably cheat on you right under your nose, and you won't be able to do anything about it because you're blinded by his money." The baseless accusation sparked an immediate reaction from Sarah, her professional composure as a pediatrician giving way to raw anger. The baggage claim area transformed into an impromptu stage for family drama, with other travelers casting concerned glances our way. The situation might have escalated further if not for Robert's intervention. Throughout the trip, he had maintained a dignified silence, observing everything but saying little. Now his quiet voice cut through the chaos. "Emma," he said, his military authority still evident despite his frail health, "your brother-in-law has done more than enough for you. If you can't appreciate it, you'd better keep quiet." His simple statement effectively silenced Emma's tirade, though the damage to family relationships was already done. After Robert's final words, a heavy silence fell over the airport terminal. His request to leave immediately was filled with quiet authority, and I quickly helped him to the car, my investment advisor instincts kicking in as I efficiently managed the situation. We drove away, leaving Emma standing there alone, her pride preventing her from asking for a ride despite being 70 miles from home. She hadn't brought her own car to the airport, having arrived with us, and I knew the taxi fare would be substantial. But after a week of her deliberate exclusion, I couldn't find it in myself to care. Aftermath. The drive to my in-laws' house was peaceful. When we arrived, both Robert and Martha expressed genuine gratitude for the vacation. Robert's hug lasted longer than usual, communicating more than words ever could. That embrace validated everything: my position in the family, my actions, my worth beyond my wallet. Sarah and I returned home and initially avoided discussing what had happened, falling back into our routine of busy professionals. The topic remained untouched until a few days later, when Sarah finally broke the silence during our evening wind down. As we sat in our home office, she shared that Emma was facing serious financial consequences. Her husband, furious about having to empty his savings to cover her extravagant spending, was demanding full repayment. He refused to save her pompous butt, as he put it, leaving Emma struggling to manage both the repayment and her regular credit card bills. While Sarah supported my actions as her husband, She gently suggested I might have gone too far. But even as she said it, she acknowledged that her sister had needed this wake-up call. Emma had spent years taking advantage of others' generosity while treating them with contempt. The fact that she was finally facing consequences for her actions felt like long overdue justice. When Sarah asked if I regretted my decisions, I could honestly say no. As an investment advisor, I know that sometimes the most valuable lessons come with the highest price tags. Emma had chosen her own tuition through her behavior, and now she was learning exactly what her actions cost, both financially and relationally. Thanksgiving update. After my experience gained attention in a financial advisor's forum, I received mixed reactions. Some suggested I was too harsh, that I should have just absorbed the cost to keep the peace. They wanted me to be a doormat, to quietly accept being treated like an outsider while still funding everyone's luxury vacation. But as someone who helps others manage their wealth professionally, I know my worth extends beyond my bank account, and I refuse to be used that way. I never expected Emma to grovel or become subservient. All I wanted was basic respect and inclusion in the family activities. Even after everything, I would have covered her expenses if she had simply acknowledged her behavior and apologized. But her pride was more important to her than making things right. The truth is, Emma and I were never close. Our relationship consisted entirely of polite greetings at family gatherings when she would visit Sarah. We had no real connection or meaningful conversations over the years. Still, when she asked to join the vacation, I agreed to fund her trip without hesitation, simply because she was family. That generosity should have earned at least a basic level of respect. But instead, it seemed to fuel her determination to exclude me even more. Emma's husband was still seething about having to empty his savings to cover her extravagant spending. The bill she had racked up at the resort nearly equaled his monthly teaching salary. No working professional would be happy to see their hard-earned money vanish because their spouse spent a week playing princess on someone else's supposed dime. But instead of accepting responsibility for her actions, Emma did what she does best. She spun a narrative, painting herself as the victim and me as the villain who had deliberately humiliated her. Martha had been planning an extra special Thanksgiving celebration, knowing it might be one of the last holidays with Robert given his declining health. But Emma's husband threw a wrench in the plans by refusing to attend. His reason? He couldn't bear to sit at the same table as someone who would humiliate a financially weaker person. Family intervention. That's when Martha finally had enough. She arranged a meeting with Emma's husband and revealed the full story of the Miami trip. "Look at the vacation photos," she told him, pulling up Emma's Instagram feed. "Really look at them." The evidence was right there in Emma's own social media posts. Photo after photo where I had been deliberately excluded, pushed behind the camera, or made to sit apart. The visual record of my systematic exclusion was impossible to deny. Martha explained how she and Robert had repeatedly tried to include me, only to watch Emma create new ways to push me aside. What made this especially painful was that I had always respected Emma's husband. As financial professionals in different fields, me in investment advising and him in education, we weren't close friends, but our interactions at family gatherings had always been pleasant and respectful. I had never looked down on him for his financial situation, as such thoughts had never even crossed my mind. We were just two men who had married into the same family, trying our best to support our wives and contribute what we could. The fact that Emma had manipulated him into seeing me as some kind of classist villain showed just how far she would go to avoid taking responsibility for her actions. Despite my reservations about attending Thanksgiving dinner after everything that had happened, I went for Robert's sake. Emma and her husband's absence was explained away with a convenient story about visiting his parents. It wasn't until after Robert retired for the evening that the real story emerged. and it was far uglier than I had imagined. The Miami incident had apparently been the catalyst for a major crisis in Emma's marriage. Rather than learning humility from the experience, she had turned her humiliation into ammunition against her husband, constantly degrading him for his income level. She began demanding that he take on a second job on top of his full-time teaching position, despite the fact that she herself only worked part-time as an administrative assistant. When he agreed to look for additional work, it came with a reasonable condition that he would need to step back from household duties and childcare. This compromise sent Emma into a fury. Marriage crisis. Martha shared how Emma's husband had broken down while telling her everything. The expectations being placed on him were staggering. Emma wanted him to work over 40 hours a week while still maintaining his share of domestic responsibilities, all while she maintained her leisurely 20-hour work week as an administrative assistant. The entitled attitude that had been so evident during our Miami vacation was apparently just the tip of the iceberg. The woman who had spent a week racking up expenses she couldn't pay was now berating her hardworking husband for not providing her with a more luxurious lifestyle. Martha had tried everything to reason with Emma. She counseled her daughter, defended her son-in-law, and attempted to make Emma understand the unreasonableness of her demands. But it seemed the taste of luxury during our Miami trip had awakened something dangerous in Emma. The woman who once claimed to be content with simple family vacations was now obsessed with living a lifestyle she hadn't earned. The situation became so concerning that Martha finally had to deliver a harsh ultimatum. She told Emma point blank that if her behavior led to divorce, she shouldn't expect any support from the family. More importantly, she was warned to keep any marriage troubles away from Robert. His health couldn't handle the stress of watching his daughter's marriage implode over her newfound materialism. On our drive home from Thanksgiving dinner, Sarah and I reflected on how our well-intentioned invitation had backfired. I remembered a quote I'd seen displayed at the Miami resort. "Once you experience luxury, there's no going back." We had inadvertently given Emma a glimpse of a lifestyle she couldn't sustain, and now her husband was paying the price. As an investment advisor, I'd seen similar situations before, where a brief taste of wealth corrupted someone's perspective entirely. The whole situation left me feeling guilty, not for making her pay her own bills, but for exposing her to a standard of living that had corrupted her perspective so completely. Her husband, a dedicated teacher who worked hard to provide for his family, was now being punished for not being able to maintain the luxury she briefly tasted. I could only hope she would come to her senses before she destroyed her marriage in pursuit of a lifestyle she couldn't afford.